And I didn't watch this one from Miami. I think I did. Then I watched the last show they did. My mother says, what's going to be your favorite group? If it wasn't for my mom getting me into the Beatles, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here.
If it wasn't for your mom, you wouldn't be here. Period.
Period, yeah. My son really likes them. My old family did. Well, how old are you? 47.
Kid.
My son likes them. He's only 37.
You want this thing or you want it? Yeah. All right, EK, you can scream if you want at me. I'll get the work done. Mary Jane, you ever scream at a guy?
Well,
did you ever scream for a star when you saw a
Oh
band
yeah,
or a
every
star
time I
get
see.
excited?
You gotta go up to the mic.
Yes.
Who would you scream for as a star? Rock
Trace
star?
Atkins.
She likes that country star.
He's
country
on Celebrity Apprentice right now.
He's the one that says, you scream, I scream.
Who's that
We all scream for ice
little
cream.
girl that's that rock star right now? What's her name?
Miley.
Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana, yeah.
Right.
They scream. Oh, they scream for her. They scream
I
like
saw
the Beatles.
I saw the Barbara Wawa interview with her,
So did
and they asked her, "Are you going to be the next Britney Spears?" Basically, she said, "I hope not."
Oh, boy, oh, boy. Well, you know, her dad, what was her dad? Billy Ray.
Billy Ray Cyrus, he had a big hit called Achy Breaky Heart.
One of the
Wanderer, and then he burned.
all-time biggest records of all time. That song
I've seen
sold more
Billy Ray
copies.
Cyrus and really like him.
And you screamed when he came on? Yes, you did. You can break
course
my
you
heart.
did.
How's the
Breaking
dance
Heart.
forward?
You can break my heart.
All right, if
Like
you want
Achy
to chime
Breaky
in
Heart.
on 1964, call me here at WPON Studios, 248-557-1460. Heard around the world on WPON.com. And I just want to mention that week ending 2/8/64, Billboard Hot 100. Number 1, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Number 7, She Loves You. By week ending 2/15, She Loves You was number 3. Of course, I Want to Hold Your Hand is number 1. And somewhere in the mix, I think at number 97, Please Please Me. And God knows where in this Hot 100 the other Beatles songs were already climbing the charts. Amazing, amazing, amazing when you think about the Beatles' impact on our life here in the United States. Musically, were we ever the same anymore, young Benny, who's playing with my 1964 Mustang?
Well, we have to definitely say that the Beatles changed the face of music, and they really brought it into the band era, as opposed to Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley. Even though they had bands behind them, they were really star singers out front, where this became 4 guys kind of equally performing together. And they really brought in the band era of music, which sparked what you love to talk about when you talk about the garage bands and the music that followed the Beatles.
Well, we're going to have a few Beatle tidbits in just a minute, but I want to remind everybody that if you look at what was going on musically around that time frame, you have to remember that Buddy Holly and Big Bopper and Richie Valens had died in '59.
We were kind of at the end of that greaser era.
And you already had the Beatles at that time, the 3 of them, minus Ringo, that their first record was That'll Be the Day.
Interestingly, a
little
Buddy
trivia.
Holly connection.
And of course, they were the Insects, the Crickets, and the Beatles, the Insects. So.
Richie Valens
And you already had exported overseas the likes of your buddy Bill Haley and the Comets. Little Richard had gone over. Roy Orbison was already over there. In fact, he auditioned his song. Remind me, guys.
Roy Orbison's big hit.
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman in '63 for the Beatles. Of course, was a big hit for him in '64, and so a lot of things. And of course, in that time frame, the late '50s, early '60s, Chuck Berry had ducked out. Little Richard
But
had ducked
he
out.
made a comeback in '64.
Yeah,
No particular place to go.
He was coming back. We're going to get some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And, of course, Elvis was trying to remake it. He had a movie out with Anne Margaret, Viva.
And that's post-Army stint for Elvis.
Right.
And he had another hit that same year called Kissing Cousins from the same movie.
So there was a void. There was a void. And, of course, that was early Motown was already starting to happen. And, but there was a void that, of course, '61 was Del Shannon Runaway, and there were, the Philadelphia guys were trying to make it at that time, and
The Golden Boys, the
Bandstand was going loud and strong, and so things were trying to happen, but the Beatles just somehow overwhelmed the music community. Overwhelmed
They certainly
the music community. They were clean cut.
Unprecedented.
They were
Like nothing
clean
had
cut.
been seen before.
No, they were clean cut, unprecedented. Brian Epstein said, "You guys are going to be clean cut. Okay, you may have your boots on, but I want you in ties. See, suits and ties.
Suits and ties. Forget about the leather stuff. Just suits and ties.
It's interesting, and of course, they didn't change the way they looked until later on, as they matured and changed. But early on, they were clean cut. Your mom and dad would have been thrilled with the Beatles. The Fab Four looked fab.
I want to tell you, Dr. Franklin, I know this, our little voyeur into '64 here may be a little hard to follow for some of the radio listeners when we cut into Dr. Strangelove and we cut into a lot of snippets and clips from the '60s. But what a great job you've done on this. It's part, I've chuckled several times listening to some of the cut-ins and cut-outs. And so I know that our audience probably has to pay attention. Like a lot of people like to listen to radio and don't pay attention. This is a show you're going to have to pay attention to follow.
Contrasts that were occurring in '64
We've gone from
were truly amazing. Now, remember, I went into this wanting to impress Beatle Brad, talking about the Beatles.
He's
in
done a
64.
good job. He's done a good job.
But as you research '64, you find dramatic movies. My Fair Lady, Mary Poppins, Dr. Strangelove. We're going to play a little cut in 7 Days in May in just a minute.
What about Failsafe? Wasn't that popular that year?
Burt Lang, which one?
Failsafe?
Failsafe.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the movies, but we're not going to get to that. But we're going to do another alternative thing called 7 Days in May in just a few minutes. And so you've got LBJ saying to the University of Michigan commencement students, "I'm here on your campus of tranquility, leaving the chaos in your capital." What was he referring to? And no longer, not fact, but his, I don't know if it was his wish, but he predicted correctly, because in June of '64, Mississippi burning. They killed the 3 boys. And the FBI got involved. It was an election year. I'm wearing my LBJ and Hubert Humphrey badge.
Now, Huggy's trying to tape that for YouTube. Last time we mentioned that badge would be well worth 75 cents on eBay, but he couldn't get a good picture of it on the YouTube. Now this time you get a good shot of it.
And so you've got a year of dramatic contrast. You like that, Benny? Dramatic contrast. You've got Robert McNamara leaving to join Robert Kennedy, and he dies in '63, and LBJ suddenly is thrown into
Vietnam is brewing.
Robert McNamara wants more observers in Vietnam every day. Gulf of Tonkin happens in August of '64. June of '64, Mississippi burning. Medgar Evers was killed somewhere in '64 early.
And you were a little 11th grader running around having a good time then.
Totally oblivious to a lot of this stuff. You heard Walter Cronkite say, "And that's the way it was, June 7th, 1964." As the